And we're talking about the propaganda that's coming out of Ukraine or about the Ukraine war and how the media just repeats it. This is the United States government admitting that they're making up shit about Russia. 3 U.S. officials tell NBC News that the United States claims based on intelligence on Russia were made up.
With the U.S. using intelligence to fight an information war and doing it to Russia for months now, and it's working.
So they're using propaganda to fight an intelligence war, and it's working. And they're supposed to debunk propaganda and tell you the truth. That's not what they do, because the news media is owned by the same people who want these wars. That's a guy who's working for the CIA.
They're also suggesting that Ukraine has biological and chemical weapons in Ukraine. That's a clear sign he's considering using both of those.
They think that's good because we're winning the war on propaganda.
We've never seen this level of information warfare before. And what they're doing is they're trying to preempt the Russians, even mess with Vladimir Putin's brain. Another example was when they announced that Russia had gone to China to ask for help with getting some weapons. That hasn't come to pass.
Didn't happen. And he's saying this is all good because the United States is winning the war against, they're messing with Putin's head by putting out misinformation and propaganda.
It doesn't even have to be solid intelligence when we talk about it. It's more important to get out ahead of them. They do something. It's preventative.
So what the United States has been now admitting, we're saying a lot of untrue shit all the time in order to try to win a propaganda war.
You know, the United States knows what they're doing, put the world on notice that this is happening. Remember, they talked about that false flag operation that they thought Russia was going to try to do at the start of the invasion. You know, that never came to pass, but that may have been preempted by...
What? So all that talk about Russia's going to do a chemical attack, that was all made up. There's another one. 3 U.S. officials told NBC News this week that there's no evidence that Russia has brought any chemical weapons near Ukraine. The stuff about China providing military help to Russia was also made up. The U.S. officials said there are no indications China is considering providing weapons to Russia. The Biden administration put that out as a warning to China not to do so. Bolivia knows that we're lying. I'd like to recall what happened at the Security Council some years ago. To be exact, on Wednesday, February 5th, 2003, when the U.S. Secretary of State came to this room, convincing evidence that there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and that this led to an invasion, and after that invasion, 1 million people were killed.
Less than a teaspoonful of dry anthrax in an envelope shut down the United States Senate. If concentrated into this dry form, this amount would be enough to fill tens upon tens of thousands of teaspoons. This is evidence, not conjecture. This is true. This is all well documented.
By the way, that anthrax was engineered inside a United States military lab.
Eyewitness accounts. We have first-hand descriptions of biological...
I think it is imperative that we remember what history teaches us. On that occasion, the United States asserted forcefully that it had all the evidence to prove that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. They were never found. So when you hear stuff about war crimes being committed by Russia in the middle of a war, remember this.
What they're doing is they're priming the American public to support horrific actions either by the Ukrainian proxies of NATO or by the United States itself. And that's why they were constantly warning about a chemical attack, because we saw what happened in Syria. Chemical attacks were all blamed on the Syrian government. It appears there was no chemical attack. Bodies were just displayed as atrocity exhibition in order to generate public consent for the West to lob missiles. It was a classic staged event, a false flag operation. And so they were laying the groundwork for something similar to take place. What the CIA was doing was cultivating American support for another false flag. They're also trying to generate this hysteria in the public about a Chinese-Russian military alliance. They're trying to inflate the military potency and threat. And now they're admitting they were totally false. They're basically taunting us